This is the news on NTA International. I'm Naja'atu Tijani. But first, the headlines. Federal government disburses 66.5 billion naira to 35 states for COVID-19 response 2020 budget results. Echoes Parliament to formulate blueprint for education in West Africa with COVID-19 in mind. Complete digitization of the civil service on course for success of the digital economy with full automation of records. And now the news in detail. The 2020 Finance Bill, critical to the implementation of the 2021 budget, has been approved by the Federal Executive Council. The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, announced this while briefing newsmen after the meeting of the Council presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari. State House correspondent Adam Osambu reports that contrary to insinuations in some quarters, the minister was emphatic that neither taxes nor levies will be increased.
The approval of the 2020 Finance Bill followed a presentation of a memo to that effect by the Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning in collaboration with the National Fiscal Policy Reform Committee. The bill, developed through a very large multi-stakeholder effort, is to be forwarded to the National Assembly for consideration. It seeks to make incremental changes to the nation's tax laws relating to customs, excise, amongst others, aimed at supporting the implementation of the annual budget.
The broad principle is to consider how we will have adequate macroeconomic strategies to attract investment, to be able to grow the economy on a sustainable basis, but also to create jobs as the immediate fiscal strategies that we need to put in place to accelerate domestic revenue mobilization in response to the COVID-19 pandemic and the recent decline in the economy.
The 2020 Finance Bill also seeks to amend provisions in 13 different tax laws, including company income tax, value-added tax, as well as public procurement and fiscal responsibility acts.
These amendments include providing fiscal relief for corporate taxpayers, for instance, by reducing the applicable minimum tax rate for 2 consecutive years, so from 0.5% to 0.25%. We also made provision to provide an incentive for mass transit by reducing the import duties and the levies for large tractors, for buses and other motor vehicles. The reason for us is to reduce the cost of transportation, which is a major driver of inflation, especially food inflation. We also have proposed measures to create a legal instrument that supports a crisis intervention fund, such as the crisis intervention that we have had to put in place for COVID-19.
The minister explained that the 2020 Finance Bill will, amongst others, reinforce the reduction in taxes effected in the 2019 Finance Act by further removing the 2% education tax being paid by small businesses.
For now, with the economic slowdown, our assessment is this is the time to cut down on taxes, to not increase taxes at all, and also to not increase levies. Again, no increase in taxes, no increase in VAT.
Works and Housing Minister Babatunde Fashola, on his part, presented a 216-page report on the housing sector, highlighting the progress made in respect of the various interventions across the country.
We, as a ministry, are doing our own heavy lifting in order to contribute to national prosperity and the commitment to raise as many as 100 million people out of poverty. So if you see some of what we have done, we've added value, we've created prosperity. Those who did not have COOs now have land that is more valuable because it has title. Access to credit also, mortgages, gives you a step towards prosperity, and so on and so forth, apart from direct creation of jobs at our construction sites.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Health, Dr. Osage Ihanere, and his water resources counterpart, Suleiman Adamu, who returned from fact-finding missions and engagements with critical stakeholders in their respective states of Edo and Jigawa, in line with presidential directive, briefed the council on the prevailing situation and the best way forward following the wanton looting and destruction of property in the aftermath of the NSAS protests in parts of the country. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
Meanwhile, following the defection of the Ebonyi State Governor Dave Umahi, the National Working Committee of the People's Democratic Party on Tuesday announced the dissolution of the ward, local government and state executive committees of the Ebonyi State chapter of the party. A statement from the party's National Publicity Secretary, Kola Olobodiyan, says the National Working Committee has also dissolved the Southeast Zonal Caretaker Committee of the party. The statement expresses gratitude to Governor Umahi for servicing the people of Ebonyi State well as the state chairman of Ebonyi PDP from 2003 to 2007, deputy governor of Ebonyi State from 2007 to 2015, and two-term governor of Ebonyi from 2015 till date, all elected on the platform of the PDP. The statement wishes Governor Umahi well and calls on the members of the party to remain calm and committed to the ideals of the PDP, as no individual is bigger than the party. The Buhari Media Organization, BMO, has described the defection of the governor of Ebonyi State, Dave Umahi, from PDP to APC as an endorsement of the successes recorded across the board by the President Muhammadu Buhari administration. In a statement signed by Ni Akinsiju, the group's chairman, and Cassidy Madueke, its secretary, the group heartily welcomes the Ebonyi State Governor to the APC family and congratulates him for a timely departure from the community of what it calls underperforming and inequitable-minded politicians. Similarly, a chieftain of the All Progressives Congress APC and Director General of the Voice of Nigeria, Mr. Osita Ukechukwu, has described Governor David Umahi's defection from the PDP to the APC on Tuesday, 17 November 2020, as a welcome development. Ukechukwu, while congratulating the Ebonyi State Governor for making the bold move, remarks that by joining the great APC at this point in time, Umahi has activated the Zikist Eagle alliance taking place in the southeast geopolitical zone. And hearing of petitions continued Wednesday at the Independent Investigative Panel on Human Rights Violations by the defunct Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, and other units of the Nigerian Police Force. Correspondent Austin Anyebe was at the panel's sitting.
The petitioner Ngozika Uhuoma narrated how he executed a contract and money paid into his Union Bank account in 2013 got him framed up and was arrested by the policemen attached to the bank. The panel directed that counsel to the petitioner approach Union Bank for recovery of his vehicle, as the police said it is not with them. Another Gabriel Ufoma alleged that documents of land which he bought at Duse Alaji in Buhari Area Council were taken away from him under duress by the police, who accused him of acquiring the property without proper verification. The police instituted an action against him and the court ruled in his favor.
This IPO Eliad now stepped out from a car. I didn't know he was there. And now organized for these people to embarrass me.
One of the policemen accused, Inspector Ilya, admitted seizing the documents. The panel, therefore, directed him to produce the documents on the 3rd of December, the next adjourned date. Late Festus Idehim, residing in Kaduna, also asked the panel to inquire into the alleged extrajudicial killing of their son Festus, a graduate of Federal Polytechnic, Kauranamoda. The family alleged that one Kingsley, an inspector with defunct SARS, had accused Festus of car theft and subsequently killed him without proper investigation.
My brother suffered. He was in the cell, he did not eat. Since on the 3rd that he left us, he didn't eat anything. He died on the 6th.
Further hearing continues on the 15th of December. From the FCT High Court, Abuja, Austin Anyebe, NTA News.
The disruption of the NSAS protest, which resulted in the burning of courts and police stations, may have a long-term effect on the justice system. This is the position of some legal practitioners participating at the 3rd Annual Criminal Law Review Conference holding in Abuja. Femi Okeo reports.
In the last 10 years or thereabouts, the Nigerian judiciary has taken conscious effort to go electronic in its processes and record keeping. But legal practitioners now say the recent NSAS protest has only gone a long way in exposing how far that effort has gone. Treating the topic updates on electronic evidence on the 3rd day of the Criminal Law Review Conference, law experts said that the burning down of courts along with already admitted evidence and other court records will bring a setback to cases before the courts, particularly criminal matters.
There is the need for judiciary to be protected and to be adequately protected for that matter.
Technology is there. The only question is, do you have the resources to determine it?
They say a stagnation of such judicial matters can be averted if the Nigerian judiciary had a retrieval system or stored court records in the cloud.
This is the time for the judiciary to really utilize its votes for concrete things like that. Every 20 years, we come around to situations where courts are destroyed, records are burned.
If society cannot take care of all these things, then it's a failure of a society. If the banks can do it, why wouldn't they fund the judiciary to be able to do that? That is, you dematerialize the documents.
The conference is expected to come up with recommendations in this direction. In Abuja, Femi Okewo, NTA News.
The Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, is expected to hold a press conference in Abuja on Thursday, 19th November 2020, on the NSAS protest and its aftermath. The conference is expected to hold at the Nigerian Army Resource Center, Mambila Barracks Junction, off Maitama Avenue, Asokoro, Abuja, by 11 o'clock in the morning. Incidents of fake news from abuse of social media have been described as a major threat to peace and tranquility in the country. An Abuja-based media outfit, PR Nigeria, at a media briefing challenged government at all levels to rebuild confidence in Nigerians and put measures in place to checkmate the rising cases of fake news to minimize the damaging consequences in the country. Vera Chinwuba reports.
New digital platforms have unleashed innovative measures that enable global outreach, which accelerates fake news. Non-restriction of various fake news going on the social media has equally been of major concern. Officer PR Nigeria, Yushao Shaibu, at a public presentation of findings conducted by PR Nigeria in the NSAS protest, identified 101 fake news used by social media influencers to escalate the initial peaceful protest. He said the NSAS protest started with the invasion of the media by unscrupulous elements, resulting in colossal damage and loss of lives. Mr. Shuaibu advocated strong response to check the menace of fake news as it constitutes potential threat to democracy and national unity.
Yeah, we just need to do something. That's why I believe strongly that legislation, a strong advocacy, and then the use of technology.
The organization said a comprehensive report on fake news will be published in January next year. In Abuja, Vera Chinwuba, NTA News.
This is the news on NTA International. There will be more reports after this time out. Thanks for staying with NTA International. The presidency wishes to explain that the absence of the federal government delegation from the planned meeting with governors and stakeholders of the South-South region was necessitated by an emergency security meeting summoned by the president, and certainly not out of disrespect. A statement by the senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity, Garba Shehu, indicates the delegation to the meeting under the Chief of Staff to the President, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, ministers and heads of security and intelligence agencies were ready to proceed to Port Harcourt until they were directed to stay back for the emergency security meeting. The presidency therefore regrets the inconvenience conveyed to the hosts of the meeting through the right channels. It further adds that the president is strongly committed to hearing from leaders, stakeholders, and the youth on burning issues affecting all parts of the Federation. And to this effect, a new date for the meeting with the South-South will be agreed on after due consultation with the parties concerned. The Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, has received the report of the Implementation Committee for the Post-COVID-19 Initiative Committee on the Creative Industry, with the assurance that its implementation will commence in earnest. Anthony Forson reports.
The committee, which was inaugurated on the 18th of August, with the mandate to come up with a workable plan on how to provide immediate, short and long-term relief for the creative industry, is also to design a policy framework for tax relief for the various sectors, among others. Chairman of the committee, Olusegun Shewe, while presenting the report, said about 14 clusters were identified and all their submissions captured to cater for all stakeholders.
The immediate, short and long-term remedies for each of these clusters are also noted in the report. And I want to assure you, sir, that the entire stakeholders in the creative industry are extremely very grateful to you.
Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed, who commended the committee for a thorough job, said the members of the committee have exhibited a high level of commitment in the discharge of their duty.
Also, I learned that the committee engaged with the broad spectrum of the entire creative sector. This action of inclusiveness is most welcome and has been justified by the stakeholders' commendations that poured in through the various media platforms.
Some members of the committee said the minister's initiative to support the industry in a post-COVID-19 era has in no small way raised the hopes of stakeholders and are eager to see the implementation of the report. In Abuja, Anthony Forson, NTA News.
Similarly, the conveners of Creative Conversation have stepped up efforts to sell Nigeria's rich creative industries to the world. Francis Form reports on their advocacy visit to the Nigerian Television Authority.
It is an established fact that the recent economic downturn occasioned by the coronavirus pandemic calls for concerted efforts to turn things around. Experts in the creative industry are of the view that the sector has suffered setback in the past due to neglect, noting that it ought to have been earning additional income for the nation. And that is why the urban creative culture is seeking the support of the Nigerian Television Authority.
It is important that government begin to look at an area that does not necessarily require certification for you to do business. And the overall focus of this conversation is looking at the strength of your talent, the strength of your passion, and the strength of your character as a basic determinant for a successful career in the creative industry.
I believe what you're championing is worthwhile, it's lofty, it's good for us to expand the space, for competition, for progress. I think it's good for everybody. The more avenues, the better for everybody. You are in the right place. NTA, we are partners.
It is their belief that if the industry is harnessed, it has the capacity to generate wealth and create employment for youth. In Abuja, Francis Form, NTA News.
The National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, says it is working to strengthen institutions for disaster management and promote a mechanism for disaster risk transfer, as well as collaborate to coordinate with humanitarian actors. Ilyasu Ali Yakubu reports.
The meeting generally x-rayed the interventions, response on disaster management, championed by the Director General of the agency, with priority given to disaster risk reduction, which promote proactiveness rather than being reactive in the usual approach. Few among some of the achievements on disaster management in recent times include awareness campaign that targeted 100% Nigerians on reducing the risks of flooding and other disasters, quick response to all catastrophic disasters, as well as mainstreaming and integrating disaster risk reduction within and across all sectors, among others. Director General, National Emergency Management Agency, while congratulating staff of the agency for the resilience and commitment to duty, promised to consolidate on the gains of the 2020 interventions.
NEMA also activated emergency operation centers in 12 states faced with challenges of flood to properly coordinate and deploy relevant support for the affected persons. The activation of the EOCs meant that NEMA was fully on the ground with stakeholders working with SEMAs and state governments to strengthen local efforts for comprehensive response to the flood.
The meeting also highlighted some of the support and encouragement by the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadia Umar Farouk, as well as other donor agencies in the management of disasters across the country. In Abuja, Ilyasu Aliyakubu, NTA News.
And on the global health scene, Pfizer and BioNTech will file for emergency use of COVID-19 vaccine on Friday, just as the Democratic Republic of Congo announces the end of the Ebola pandemic. Justin Bem-Unyi reports.
Reports have indicated that German pharmaceutical company BioNTech, which has been working on a COVID-19 vaccine with U.S. pharmaceutical giant Pfizer, will file paperwork on Friday for the emergency use of its vaccine in the United States. Pfizer announced that a final analysis of the phase 3 trial of its coronavirus vaccine shows it was 95% effective in preventing infections, even in older adults, and caused no serious safety concerns. Meanwhile, coronavirus is continuing to spread in Europe, while World Health Organization data on Wednesday showed that Europe has recorded a 10% decline in COVID-19 cases over the past week for the first time in over 3 months. Deaths in Europe jumped by 18% during the past week in comparison to the previous one. And globally, data on the Worldometer dashboard as at 6 p.m. indicated cases now exceed 56.2 million, just as the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, says 65,457 cases are now recorded in the country. In the meantime, the Democratic Republic of Congo has declared an end to its 11th Ebola outbreak nearly 6 months after cases were reported. The end of the outbreak in the western province of Equateur marks the first time that the vast Central African nation has been Ebola-free in about 2.5 years. The DRC's Minister of Health, Dr. Eteni Longodo, made the official declaration along with the World Health Organization on Wednesday after no new cases were registered in more than 48 days. Justin Bem-Unyi, NTA News.
The success of the digital economy with full automation of records in all sectors has been hinged on complete digitization of the civil service, and this came to the fore during the signing of a memorandum of understanding with key players in the digital system. Adebola Brooklyn Sunday reports that civil servants are to run the process when fully executed.
Over the years, paperwork has been dominating the running of government activities in ministries, departments, and agencies. Efforts are, however, in recent times been put in place by government to change this trend in line with the Federal Civil Service 2017-2020 strategy and implementation plan to breed epic civil servants. This memorandum of understanding is to fast-track the process of full digitalization of government activities towards pursuing a public and civil service that is strong and effective in response to modern challenges.
It therefore means that new strategies, processes, and innovations must be adopted to enable us to redefine governance for improved quality of service and economic development.
Nigerian public servants must be efficient. They must be productive. They must be incorruptible and must be citizen-centered.
For the leader of the delegation, Gbenga Oyewole, the MOU is in response to government's public-private partnership policy.
It will be easy to key into the development in the government cycle and also global development, the new normal.
So we need to put them in an appropriate position to be able to even achieve the digitization properly.
A digital innovation conference that will further strengthen the process has been approved by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, for the first quarter of 2021.
We are saying, let's bring the energy of our youth, their skills, let's bring them to positive use and not destructive one.
With the development, Nigerians are expected to be better served for national development. Adebola Brooklyn Sunday, NTA News.
That digital report